I checked into a hotel in Zurich when the man ahead of me leaned over the desk and asked, "Which rooms are for higher-tier guests?" The receptionist didn't hesitate. "All rooms are the same standard." He blinked, confused. "So where do the important people stay?" She paused, then said calmly, "In their rooms." The silence that followed felt heavier than any argument. That was the moment I realized something was off. At a cafe in Vienna, I watched an American try to skip a line using pure confidence. "I just need a quick espresso," he said, stepping forward. The barista didn't even look up. "So does everyone else?" He laughed, assuming it was a joke. It wasn't. He tried again, softer this time. "I'll tip extra." That finally got a reaction. The barista looked up. "You tip after service here." And then went back to work. The man stepped back slowly, confused, like he'd just tried to use the wrong currency. No one in line reacted. No eye rolls, no tension. Just quiet acceptance of the order. He stood there for a moment, then joined the back. That's when it hit me, there was no system to hack. No shortcut. Just a structure that didn't bend around urgency, money, or personality. In Amsterdam, I sat on a train when an American businessman asked the conductor where first class was. The conductor checked his ticket and said, "This train doesn't have classes." The man frowned. "So, everyone just sits anywhere?" "Yes." He looked around at the packed carriage, clearly uncomfortable. "So I paid the same as all these people?" The conductor nodded. "You paid for the journey." He didn't argue. That was the strange part. He just sat down slowly, like something inside him had short-circuited. No complaint. No escalation. Just quiet recalibration. I could see it in his face, he wasn't upset at the train. He was trying to understand the logic. A system where paying more didn't move you ahead didn't feel neutral. It felt like something was missing. This is where things shift. It's not about service quality. It's about expectation. If you're raised in a system where money unlocks layers, priority, access, comfort, you start to see equality as limitation. Not fairness. Limitation. So when that layer disappears, it doesn't feel like balance. It feels like loss. Even when nothing was taken from you. That's the paradox. At a public pool in Berlin, an American father asked the staff where the premium section was. "We don't have one," they said. He looked around at the crowded pool. "So my kids just swim here?" The staff nodded. "With everyone else?" He hesitated. "That's not ideal." The staff didn't respond. Not defensively. Not sarcastically. Just silence. Like the question didn't fully translate. He tried again. "What if we want more privacy?" The staff pointed to the schedule. "You can come during quieter hours. No upgrade. No special access. Just timing." He looked at his kids, then back at the water. For a moment, it felt like he was deciding whether to adapt or reject the entire situation. Then he sighed. "All right, let's go." And they walked in. In Paris, I watched an American couple argue at a museum security line. "We already bought premium tickets," the man said. The guard nodded. "That's for entry. This is security." The woman stepped forward. "So there's no fast track?" The guard shook his head. "Security is the same for everyone." The man laughed, but it wasn't humor. "So what did we pay for?" The guard replied, "The museum." They stood there, processing it like a delayed echo. No one behind them complained. No one moved around them. The line held. Solid. Equal. Eventually, they stepped back into place. Not convinced. Not satisfied. Just contained by the structure. And that's the difference. In some systems, pressure changes things. Here, pressure just stops. That's the core pattern. It's not resistance. It's absence. There's no lever to pull, no escalation path that changes the outcome. And for someone used to navigating systems through influence, money, tone, urgency, that feels like hitting a wall. Not an unfair wall. Just a wall that doesn't recognize those signals. And once you see it, you start noticing it everywhere. In Stockholm, I stayed at a quiet hotel where everything felt too calm. One night, an American guest approached the front desk. "I think there's a mistake," he said. "My room is exactly like my colleagues." The receptionist nodded. "Yes." He leaned in. "But I paid more." She checked his booking. "You paid for flexibility, not a better room." He froze, like the answer didn't belong in reality. He walked away slowly, glancing back at the desk like something unseen had just shifted. No anger. Just unease. Like he'd discovered a rule that shouldn't exist. Later that night, I saw him in the hallway, standing still, looking at identical doors stretching in both directions. Same handles. Same lighting. No markers of difference. It felt less like a hotel, and more like a system that erased hierarchy completely. In Lisbon, I watched an American try to tip a barista before ordering. "Just making sure I get yours," he said with a smile. The barista gently pushed the money back. "You'll get mine anyway." The man laughed. "Yeah, but faster." The barista shook his head. "Same speed." He tried again. "Better." The barista smiled slightly. "Same quality." The transaction ended before it began. He stood there awkwardly, holding cash that suddenly had no leverage. People behind him waited quietly. No impatience. No pressure. Just a line moving at its own pace. Eventually, he ordered like everyone else. No shortcut. No advantage. And for a second, you could see it, he wasn't annoyed. He was disoriented. Like he'd just tried to press a button that wasn't connected to anything. What's happening here isn't rejection. It's neutrality. The system isn't pushing back against you, it's simply not responding to signals you expect it to. And that creates a strange kind of tension. Because when effort, money, or intention doesn't change outcomes, you're left with something unfamiliar, structure without negotiation. And for many people, that feels less like fairness and more like loss of control. In Copenhagen, I overheard an American at a hospital reception desk. "I'd like to pay for faster treatment," he said. The receptionist didn't flinch. Treatment is based on urgency. He leaned forward. "What if I pay a lot?" She looked at him directly. "Then you'll still wait your turn." The silence after that was sharp. Not hostile. Just final. Like a rule that couldn't be rewritten. He stepped back slowly, scanning the room. People sitting. Waiting. No one reacting. No one negotiating. Just a quiet system running on its own logic. He sat down, but not comfortably. Like he'd been placed into something he didn't fully accept. And that's when it became clear this wasn't about healthcare. It was about a world where money stopped being a tool. In Helsinki, I met an American parent at a school meeting. "So where are the advanced tracks?" she asked. The teacher explained that classes are mixed. "We focus on everyone progressing together." The parent frowned. "But my child is ahead." The teacher nodded. "Then they'll help others." She blinked. "That's not what I meant." The teacher smiled politely. "It's what we mean." The conversation didn't escalate. It didn't need to. The system wasn't built to adjust around individual advantage. It was built to maintain balance. The parent sat back, clearly unsatisfied. But there was nowhere to push. No alternative track to buy into. Just a structure that valued collective progress over individual acceleration. And for her, that didn't feel fair. It felt limiting. Here's the tension: equality removes visible advantage. And when you're used to seeing your position reflected in your environment, priority lines, better rooms, faster service, its absence feels like invisibility. Not because you've lost something real, but because the system no longer mirrors your status. And that disconnect can feel uncomfortable, even threatening. In Oslo, I stood behind an American at a government office. He leaned forward. "Is there a way to expedite this?" The clerk shook her head. "Processing is in order." He smiled, lowering his voice. "What if I pay a fee?" She didn't react. "There is no fee." He tried again. Unofficially. That landed differently. Not offensive. Just irrelevant. She looked at him calmly. "We don't have that system." No judgment. No warning. Just a statement that removed the option entirely. He stood there for a second, like he was waiting for the real answer to arrive. It didn't. Eventually, he stepped aside, holding documents that suddenly had no leverage attached to them. Just paper. Just process. In Barcelona, I watched an American try to reserve a table that was clearly first come, first served. "We'll pay double," he told the host. The host shook his head. "You can wait." The man laughed. "No, seriously." The host didn't change expression. "So am I." People nearby kept eating, unaffected. No one leaned in. No one cared about the offer. The man looked around, expecting reaction. There wasn't any. Just a system continuing as designed. Eventually, he stepped back and joined the waiting group. Not defeated. Just recalibrating. And that's the pattern again. Not confrontation. Not rejection. Just a quiet refusal to operate on a different logic. A system that doesn't escalate because it doesn't need to. At this point, it becomes visible. The difference isn't behavior, it's architecture. Some systems are built to respond to pressure. Others are built to ignore it. And when you move between them, your instincts don't just fail, they become irrelevant. That's the discomfort. Not being denied. But not being recognized by the system at all. In Reykjavik, I joined a group tour where an American couple kept asking for a private version mid-experience. "We'll pay extra," they said quietly to the guide. The guide shook his head. "This is a shared tour." They pushed again. "Even now?" He smiled politely. "Especially now." Something about that answer shifted the mood. Not tense. Just final. They fell silent after that. Not angry. Just distant. Like they'd realized they were inside something they couldn't reshape. The rest of the group moved forward together, unchanged. Same pace. Same experience. No fragmentation. And for a moment, it felt less like a service, and more like a rule that protected itself from being divided. In Dublin, I watched an American at a bar try to get served faster by waving a large bill. "I'm ready," he said, holding it up slightly. The bartender glanced at him, then at the line. "So are they." He smiled. "I'll make it worth your time." The bartender wiped the counter slowly. "My time is already paid for." And moved on. The man lowered the bill, half smiling, half confused. No anger. Just that same pause. Like the rules had shifted mid-game without warning. Eventually, he waited. Ordered. Paid. Same as everyone else. And when his drink arrived, nothing was worse. Nothing was missing. Just no advantage. Which, for him, felt like something had been taken away. That's the real collision. Not between people, but between expectations and design. When you expect the world to respond to who you are, and it responds only to what you need, something feels off. Not unfair. Just unfamiliar. And that discomfort? It's not about equality being wrong. It's about hierarchy being gone. I went back to that hotel in Zurich months later. Same question at the desk. Which rooms are better? This time, the receptionist answered differently. All of them. The guest paused, then nodded slowly. That's actually kind of nice. And just like that, something shifted. Not in the system. In the person. Because sometimes the shock isn't losing advantage. It's realizing you never needed it.